Hi everyone, welcome to the Mayor's Table. With me today is Community Works Director David Sypher. We're going to be talking about the broad scope of services that fall underneath Community Works. We're going to talk about roads, projects, and my favorite subject, potholes. Everyone, Farmington Mayor Nate Duckett, thank you for joining us for another episode of the Mayor's Table. We're in February of 2023, and with me today is the man of the hour, Mr. David Sypher, Director of Community Works at the City of Farmington. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. It's always good to be here.
I feel like I could probably have you on, like once a quarter, because there's so much that goes on in the city that's really driven out of the budget of the Community Works Department. And I think it's really good for people to know and understand kind of how broad that scope of work is, because Community Works is a pretty big title, right?
It really is. And we have, everything from your garbage route to your building permits and everything in between, the engineering and streets, traffic, survey, construction inspection, and that to name a few.
To name a few. There's no doubt. I think especially here as an elected official, David, for the last 9 years, I can tell you streets is the most common conversation that we have. But whenever I get a chance to talk to individuals, or specifically kind of the youth here in the city, I always talk about the need for individuals to get into water treatment, to get into all those utility components that are so important in making these communities run. I use the example, say, who here likes to turn on the faucet and be able to drink water, straight out of the faucet? We can do that here in our city, and it takes people and engineering and know-how in order to make sure that happens, which, by the way, that doesn't happen that way in most of the world. It's I hate to say it's unique. It's, obviously as an American, I've always had clean water to drink.
Oh, we've been ahead of the game here in the United States of America, and we are so blessed to have a great drinking water program. And as since we brought it up, I will just say we're just at the point of this Sunday we will have an advertisement for Water Treatment Plant 1 for a massive upgrade. So something that if we would have got a brand new water treatment plant which would have cost us 65 or 40 to 65 million, we're going to have an upgrade that's about 16.5 million. So and we found a grant that's going to pay for half of it. Plus, there's stuff in the legislature that we're hoping for even more of grant. So we're very blessed.
We are, and I think we're fortunate here. I get conversations with from individuals who are interested in understanding what our long-term plan is for water, just from the standpoint of we have obviously a finite supply. It's not an infinite supply, but where our water comes from, how we store it, how we treat it, how we deliver it, and and obviously the threat that ongoing drought has in people's minds is how long are we going to keep getting it out of the Animas River, or in some circumstances out of the San Juan. But I think it's a good segue just to mention the fact that we've got a study that we're putting in, we're asking for some money for, in regards to raising the Farmington Lake, our reservoir,
right,
by 25 feet, which would expand the capacity
by 73%.
By 73%,
yeah.
Which is just to think about 25 feet will add 73% capacity, and that takes us to, is it like over 360 days of water?
Yes, that is correct. It does, and that's at average day use, and if it's about 201 days, I believe, if you're talking about peak use. But of course, in an emergency situation, we would all expect that our citizens would conserve to their best abilities.
Oh, of course.
Yep.
Yeah. No, I'm happy that snowpack this year has been excellent.
Really good. We're about 124% of normal today, which is really good. Of course, each month it's new month, and
Sure.
and everybody, regardless of their belief of climate change or not, all of us agree that this is a dry cycle. whatever causes the cycle, we could argue about that, but we can all agree that we are in a drought cycle, which is serious and real, and so we need to do whatever we can do to prepare for that.
Yeah, I think it's a long-term plan. Raising the dam is not something we can obviously do overnight.
No, it's likely it's a generational thing. Remember when Lake Nighthorse went in? That was an 80-year program. When Farmington Lake went in '64, that's a long-term project. These things are very expensive projects, and they're while it's a great economy, in other words, it's the best, most efficient way to gain more water storage is to build on an existing structure. While that's true, still it's a very expensive proposition, and that type of money takes a lot of study to get something ready for something that huge, but also it just takes a lot of money. And in 2017 dollars, it was estimated at $65 million to do that, and it's likely by the time it gets built that it would actually be more like in the $100 million range.
Well, if you even just consider now, if you were standing out at the lake and try to picture it 25 feet deeper, how much bigger and broader that water spreads out over the expanse of what exists now. So you have your silt basins as you come in. Those would obviously have to be moved.
They would.
The road that exists there now would obviously have to be relocated. And people may ask, well, geez, we're spending money out there for recreational purposes. Again, this is a long way off before it would actually go into a construction phase. So bear those things in mind at this moment.
Sure, and not only that, but you've got really good responsible managers. When they put any of those improvements in, they're doing it in consideration of where that new level would be. So if they're putting something in that has a 25-year life, that's probably very responsible to think that, well, if it's got a 25-year life, it's going to be 25 years until it's raised, perhaps. But the point being that they're taking it into consideration. It depends on the amount of money and the life of the thing that they're doing. But the parks and recreation people are all very aware of where that line is.
Right, of course. This is in consideration. We have talked in the past about the idea of getting a pipeline directly from Lake Nighthorse. That's obviously another huge project that would have to be undertaken. This seemed to be kind of the lower hanging fruit. We have this body of water. We have land around it that we can utilize. Let's look at the feasibility of just adding more to that.
Yes, absolutely. Not only is it less expensive, but also we're in control of it, and we're not at the mercy of other people's rights. When you look at it this way, Lake Nighthorse is a whole different situation in a serious drought. Right. Serious drought being an Animas River not running if it goes dry someday. And then the Mountain Ute folks have those priority rights, and how much would actually get to Farmington, nobody can say, even if there was a pipeline. So this is really the more prudent thing to be looking at.
Well, good. Well, I'm excited about being a part of the group that is helping kind of push this along, because I think it's a good project. It's, in my mind, maybe the most important project on a regional basis. Many folks may not know that over 50% of the water that's stored in Lake Farmington is actually contracted out to other users. So we have a broader expanse of who we're touching with those.
We really do. This meets the true definition of regional, in that a majority of our water that we put out during our summer months, it's not for us, it's for the region. And so when we talk about these planning efforts for the future, we're talking about building a true regional asset that we can all rely on. As time goes on, populations only continue to grow. We need to be able to think ahead, or else our children and grandchildren won't have the water they need.
Very good point, David. So let's move and kind of shift a little bit here. I'm going to move to roads, but I'm going to move to roads in this way. We obviously are very aggressive in the replacement of water and wastewater lines. So all the cuts that we see in the asphalt across the city, that's coming directly out of your replacement and repair charge, which is on your water utility bill.
That is correct.
And is there any update or anything you can say? I mean, we're going to continue that process and getting that 1950, 1960 pipe out of the ground and replaced, which, by the way, if anybody saw a cross cut of what some of these pipes look like, they would have certainly a better understanding as to why we need to get those
That
out
is
of the
correct.
ground.
And there's also, as everybody in the nation put in asbestos cement pipes, we are engaged in getting rid of those as well. So small diameter pipes, steel pipes, and asbestos cement pipes are our priority. The 1950s pipes, and we're working on some of the 60s pipes now. Those have lived their life. They've done great. And we're trying to replace them with a quality material that's going to last and serve these citizens far into the future. So we can eventually hit the break-even period where we're actually making good progress on that. And just the leak progress alone, we're down into the 9% loss. The national average, the national target is 10%, and we're below that now. And just a few years ago, we were up around 13, 14% water loss out of our pipes. So we're making a dent, and we're doing the things that we need to be doing.
That's a great statistic to share, I guess I didn't realize that, but that would make sense that there would be a national kind of standard. This is where it's acceptable. This is where you need to be,
Right.
And just continue to work on it on that end.
Right.
In regards to that, we do have a water line project that's taking place on College Boulevard.
We do. It's
right
a raw
now.
water line project.
So by the time this airs, just so you know,
Yes.
College Boulevard will have been closed that Saturday, February 4th. So
Yes.
hopefully we get through that part.
Yeah.
Obviously, didn't want to close it on a school day.
Right.
College is tough enough on a school day.
Right.
But it's a raw water line going to Pinning Hills Golf Course, correct?
That is correct. And in fact, we have a raw water line network in this town where it's delivered to 12 different locations, the primary one being our golf course.
Okay. So from that one water line, it goes to 12?
No, on downstream. Just so everybody knows, our lake is fed from two different sources, one from Farmer's Ditch, one from Penny Lane. And as those two sources then fill the lake, then water runs from the lake, from the dam, all the way to treatment plant 1, which is down on Ute Street and clear on the other end of town.
Sure.
So what is that? I want to say 8 miles or something on that order. So we feed different places as far down as Brookside Park out of the raw water line.
All right.
So
Interesting. So raw water is untreated water that comes out of the lake.
That is correct.
And they utilize that water at the golf course for watering, I would imagine?
Yes, they do.
All right. So that project hopefully slated, they'll be off the road.
Well, the college itself, where we're replacing the line, within a week and a half, we'll be done with taking up lanes of traffic, and then we'll be off to the side of the road from that point. We'll be what we call pipe bursting. I don't know, a lot of people don't know this, but this is some fun history. College Boulevard was built on an old landfill.
Okay.
So as you come down there was some of those pipes are like 20 foot deep underneath there. So it's not easy to find out what they did and how they did it and how to repair it and how to tap into it. And so it's been very difficult and we've gotten unexpected information as we went down there. But yes, within 10 days we'll be out of the travel lanes and we'll be off to the side of the road, and we hope to be able to be all the way down to 30th, heading down towards Main Street with the raw water line. Once we get to Puerto Arroyo, we go under near C. Senors. We'll go under the bridge there and then down to highway or to the highway.
Well, haven't we already done the work of the raw water line on that portion of 30th, or is that still work to come?
No, we haven't done that yet. But we'll be doing pipe bursting. We did put a brand new valve in so that we could control the water at Main Street at the new water line. So that was the first thing we did, so that we would have control over that as we were finishing up the project.
David, here's a favorite question I get. Why don't you guys do that stuff at night?
Well, actually, we're doing more and more things, as you mentioned, Saturday. and we'll be doing more and more things like that at night. Night is dangerous, so you do have a problem there. You're paying premium pay, so you're escalating the cost of the project. So you try to avoid that if you can, but I've actually been pushing that more and more to be thinking outside the box and not just the traditional work hours. Certainly with all those schools up and down the college corridor, you've noticed that we've not been doing work during the school to and from school hours.
Okay.
So like from 7 to 7:30, 7:30 to 8, and then in the afternoons maybe an hour around the 3 to 4 o'clock hour.
Okay.
Somewhere in there. So we didn't have our contractor working those during those 2 periods of time.
The reality is they're big projects. It's unfortunate that they have to fall where they fall, but the work has to be done. And we just do the best we can to work around it. And I still try and sell people, David. I'm an optimistic guy. I love the fact that my commute going to and from the northern part of town to downtown where I work each and every day is a 12 to 15 minute drive. You can't say that for a number of cities that offer what we offer. So no. I try and keep people in that mindset, like, look, how much longer is it really making that commute? I understand you have to slow down. Just try and keep people in that, on the reality side of
we're
what's
amazingly
happening.
blessed. You talk about the traffic jams in any larger city. We just don't have that. We just have sometimes there's a slight delay and that's it. So
I will say, taking up any Main Street lane during a Friday afternoon is a little tough.
That is tough, and we're trying to do better with that. Yeah. And the one thing is, when you see a deteriorating line, it only makes sense at times that there's going to be a lot of delays because people are fixing it, and finally you get to the point you say, we've got to replace this.
Sure.
And so it does, to the casual observer, the person coming through there that uses that roadway, it is a process, and it does seem like, how long have they been fixing this? And it gets discouraging at times.
20th Street, a project that we've been working on for years, and right now we're kind of at a standstill. And so describe what exactly we were doing on 20th Street.
Oh, that was really a cool project. The council, before I got here, so at least 12 years ago, they said that they wanted a demonstration project through a main corridor in town that didn't have the electric lines running up and down it.
Burying the electric lines.
Burying the electrical lines was the main thrust. The same token, we wanted to be ADA compliant. We had all of our corner ramps and width of our sidewalks, and even the widths, if it were the proper width. If you were going down in a wheelchair, you couldn't get around the poles that were in the middle of the sidewalk panels.
Sure.
And so the council said that they wanted to try a demonstration project and see if we could do it and see what it looked like and see what lessons we could learn. And so we did. And it is done now, with the exception of a few poles to be moved, which will be done in the spring. The final sidewalk panels plugged and will be done. The rest of the work is completed at this time, and so we'll just have to wait for that last piece in the spring.
Well, I can tell you the view from 20th Street is so much cleaner, obviously, without all the poles.
Isn't it
and all
nice?
the lines.
It's amazing.
It's very easy on the eyes. Love to see that kind of in our areas on East Main Street. Well, all of Main Street would be very cool, but that's a very expensive project.
It was a very expensive project.
Folks need to understand too, of course, that most of the money that came for 20th Street was a federal grant.
Well, one of the reasons that it took so long was that we broke it into 3 phases. We did it in 3 phases, and it took time to get those grants. So as we would get the grants, we would move to the next phase, and that's why it took so long. We just didn't have a big wad of extra cash we wanted to spend on it.
Sure.
It was all almost exclusively grant funded in the end, except for the contribution from the electric side.
And just in regards to that grant component, because even projects like Foothills, which now Foothills Phase 3, which will be beginning, I think, this spring.
Late spring we'll be bidding it, yes.
So that project, again, that's grant monies that are coming in to expand and improve those roadways.
Right.
And in specific, what's happening on Foothills, of course, is where we want to have the ability to walk a dog and ride a bike safely. We want to help control speeds as we're coming down that long, straight corridor for, for all the people who live in those residences. I mean, safety is an important component of that. But phase 3 will go out to bid in the spring, and then we're looking at doing construction in the summer. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Yep.
Do we anticipate that carrying over? I think that carries over into 2024.
We're hoping to be complete in December, but that could carry over, yes.
Okay. Fingers crossed.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Other big project that we obviously are very focused on right now is Pinion Hills Boulevard Extension.
That is such an exciting project. People heard about the $40,000 that the state had granted.
40 million. 40 million.
40 million.
40,000.
Just a few
40,000,
decimal
David.
points.
I wish.
So anyway, they've heard about that 40 million, but 10 million of it goes to the county. That left us with 30 million on our project. But a lot of people haven't heard about the announcement that as 2 weeks ago, we got an announcement that we've now received another 10 million.
That's good.
Which we needed because of inflation.
Yeah.
Inflation this last couple of years have been awful. And
Well,
so
I can just tell you this, in home building and building in general, I mean, costs have gone up over 30% in the last 2 years.
yeah, I believe it. It's been amazing, but at this point, as of today, that it meets our projections with that final 10 million, which was another great blessing for the community.
What's the next step, David, in that project?
That they are looking at, the river has done a little bit of movement, and as such, they need to talk to the Corps of Engineers and see if the mitigations that they are offering will work, and if so, we're ready for what we call PS&E, which is the final step of approval before you take it to bid. So we're hoping in March that we're actually going to take it out to bid.
Fingers crossed on that as well.
Fingers crossed as well.
That's a project from 1999, I think, is when it first showed up on a council
maybe a
agenda.
little before that, yeah.
Maybe before that, maybe 96.
Yeah, maybe so.
We've talked about it a few times on here. We've talked about the dam raise study. We've talked about the fact that we're going out for water treatment plant 1, which is out to bid.
Yes.
Water treatment plant 2, which is over off of English Road behind Target.
Right, it's under design.
Under design right now for improvements there. Okay. All right, so switching gears a little bit.
Sure.
I just want to make sure people, when they need to know where or what's going on with a certain project, that we have online, cityoffarm.fmtn.org.
Right.
You can go on there, and right on front is construction road projects. Click the little icon, and it's
Yes.
going to take you to another site where we have a map.
That is correct. It's an interactive map. You can click on it and get more information about the start date, the cost of the project, about traffic control, and we try hard to keep that up to date. And then there's some direct phone numbers that you can call if it happens not to have all the information you need. But it's a nice little map.
No, I think it's really good to keep people up to date and somewhere that's centralized location. You can go here, you can see on the map where those things are taking place, and I think we also have future projects on there.
Yes, we do.
As well with their start dates, just to keep everybody going. Because just looking at my list here, we obviously have a lot of projects.
I wanted to talk to you about the irrigation
Okay.
system. We also, all the irrigation ditches, when they cross the city streets, we need to make the repairs. It's our legal responsibility. We have this year, because of just the timing of things, we have 3 large repairs to make in the irrigation systems before the March 1 deadline. So we're in the midst of that too, and so sometimes those projects get quite large. Anywhere from $50,000 to $500,000 that can cost to redo some of these crossings.
So anywhere that like the farmer's ditch or something like that, anywhere they cross an intersection,
They cross a road.
roadway,
Yep.
it's our responsibility
City
to
street.
repair those.
It is.
Interesting.
Yep. So
That's
our
not the
department
case
does
with
that.
all their repairs, just simply where it crosses.
No,
over.
just crossings.
Just
crossings. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, there's a number of those. We've got a project on Apache and Airport, an irrigation project at Westland Park, which have they started that? Because I know there's been some work. Maybe you've already started
We're
that.
all ready to go on that. Everybody's ready to turn on that, except that we haven't gotten the pipe yet. Unless it came today and I haven't been notified, we didn't get it yet. And we keep, that poor truck driver must be going crazy because we keep checking on, where are you at, where are you at?
And the last one I have on here is the irrigation project at San Juan Boulevard, which we're still waiting for a quote on.
Right,
Okay.
that is right.
Well, David, one of the other parts of in this past few years we've really been focused on is obviously safety on the roadways. So we've done some changes with the removal of some street intersection lights. Sorry, losing my mind here. And then also in places where we've gone and done what we call warrant checks. And so many folks have asked, why did we remove those street lights along Apache or on Dustin? And each of those requires, any of those intersections are analyzed based on what we call warrants. And there's a number of things that are in consideration there. But essentially, those intersections no longer warranted having that type of intersection device in place.
Right,
and
signals.
so we removed those signals. Other things we've done in regards, we've added the radar speed limit signs into particular roadways where we want people to make sure they're paying attention to their speed. The hope there obviously is that people will pay attention to those signs, they'll see it, they need to slow down through those corridors. The flashing lights, different things we've done to move the big truck traffic from downtown, making sure that those big semis aren't going through our
We've
beautiful
even done
area.
some restriping to narrow the lanes, and that, believe it or not, it's a fact in Farmington that slows people down by 2 miles an hour. It doesn't sound like much, but sometimes every little bit helps.
Sure. And then I know recently I've received word that we're also going to do a little bit of a study there at Apache and US 64.
Yes, we are.
Going in the Westland Park, which I know those neighbors down there will be, looking to see what that report comes out, what it shows, and ways that we can, it's a big highway,
Right.
and it's a very wide highway. So
Right.
when we talk about what causes people to speed, even though when they may not mean to, when you have a wide field of view, you feel safer.
Sure.
So you move through there faster.
Well, you
So,
don't even feel like you're going as fast.
Yeah,
Right.
that's right. Last big topic I have for you, sir, is potholes.
Yes,
Man,
our favorite.
We could have started with potholes and maybe done a whole show on potholes. But let me just kind of give this premise. I mean, there are roads in this city that are city roads, and there are roads that are state roads. And I think it's important for people to kind of know that distinction. And unfortunately, when it comes to the actual maintenance and repair of those things, we are the ones who take, I say, the responsibility in some way, certainly the brunt of any type of feedback that we get, whether it's a state road or a city road. If it's inside the city, people expect that the city is going to go out and address that problem. Main Street is a state highway.
Main Street is a state highway, and we are not going to let, even though the fact that it's a state highway, if something gets to be an emergency or a safety hazard, we'll go out and patch it. But our first line of action is to notify them, let them know. And in normal times, the state will be very responsive and get out there. But remember, they only have a 6-man crew also, and are covering the area the size of the county. And so if they're off on one end of the county patching potholes, they're not going to be available for some time before they can get in.
Right.
And we won't put our citizenry at that hazard. We'll go out and patch it in that instance and send them a bill.
Well, let me just say this. For all those folks out there who took the time to communicate their concerns and where different potholes were located at, which I know all across East Main Street, we had some really big potholes that occurred 2 weeks ago, and we had so much moisture and the freezing and the thawing, and I appreciate their feedback because
Absolutely.
we don't want people's cars to get damaged. We don't want potential accidents to occur. We obviously, when we're managing roadways, we manage against those things from happening. But there are certain elements and situations that occur where it becomes very challenging. Frankly, David, I will say this because I know we communicated this to the state last year, was the spider cracking that's already occurred all across Main Street was going to lead in a situation where we had a wet winter into large potholes.
And we had that that month and a half of continuous moisture, and then the low temperatures and the freeze thaw cycle, and that was just perfect conditions for potholes. And so yes, it was an unfortunate set of combined circumstances that just was perfect potholes.
Sure.
And like you said, when you start with the fact that you have a surface that's full of cracks, I mean, that's perfect.
Moisture just gets in there.
Yep.
When it freezes and thaws, it pops out
Yep.
that material. And then even when you fill those potholes, if there's still moisture that's occurring, it doesn't take a whole lot of vehicle traffic to pop all that material back out of that hole.
That's right.
Which we saw happen over a week period of time. It was
And almost all of our potholes are in those winter months, especially November, December, January. Those are especially in February. They are really critical months and common months for this to happen.
So I'm going to throw this question out to you, David, because I hear it all the time.
Okay.
Why are New Mexico roads worse than other states' roads? And so as somebody who travels to Colorado and just recently took a trip that went to Arizona and Nevada and Utah, I can tell you that the roads in those areas appeared to me to be in better shape.
Yeah, I don't have any statistics on that, but I can tell you that I have studied the standards, the depth of the asphalt, the depth of the base course, and the type and specifications. They are more relaxed here, and the reason being is because we don't have the moisture. Okay. So I originally, 10 years ago, lived up in Washington, where we get 90 inches a year instead of 9 inches a year.
Sure.
Okay, and those roads would not last at all if they had the same standards that we have here in New Mexico. It's just, it's cheaper to build roads here, but when you get the special condition, you let the roads deteriorate a little bit, so now they've got cracks in them. You have the weather, high to low temperature, the freeze thaw that happens every day, and then you get that moisture combined in the winter. It's just a formula for rotten roads.
I mean, that is absolutely, you talk about unique areas of the country where literally every morning during this time it's in the 20s or it could be lower. I think this morning it was like 12 degrees. But in the afternoon it could be 30 degrees, 40 degrees higher.
Right.
And so every single day you're having that same component.
Same action, yeah.
Similar to what we have when we talk about our ball fields. We don't open up our ball fields until after it really starts staying above freezing overnight, because we don't want to damage those pipes. We need to water the grass in order to obviously once it's not dormant anymore. So we do have that unique component in the high desert.
We do.
Yeah.
We do.
Okay.
And so it's just that combination of things.
Sure. Well, again, I appreciate people's feedback, and you can reach out. I mean, I think it's important that
Yes.
people know, and when we see things like that, and not just any unsafe road hazard
Right.
needs to be reported. And there's certain times you may call non-emergency dispatch about a situation. There were a couple big potholes near Safeway that frankly could have swallowed a VW bug. When those things occur, it's worth calling non-emergency dispatch to say, hey, we got an unsafe situation. Those calls do make it to our road
They
crew,
do.
right?
Last night we had some folks out patching Main Street because we got the phone calls, and it's amazing how fast those potholes develop. It's just in the morning they're not there, in the afternoon they're man killers.
I have a pothole number in my head for the number that we do on an annual basis, and it's I want to say it's 10,000.
Well,
I mean,
we have in bad years gotten up to that high. That's true.
Yeah.
The a normal year is more like 1,500. So
Why was I thinking it was way more than that?
well, because in the past it
But
was.
even on a 12-month cycle, that's more than 100 a month that you're filling.
Yeah.
But okay, the best way for people to reach out to report road issues is 505-599-1062, or you can go on to fmtn.org/report-a-concern, and those are monitored. And
Yes, they are.
okay, there are also ways to reach out to people in the state. David, does it make sense for them just to report to us and then we can report it to the state?
We're happy to do that.
It's
We will do that, but
simpler that way.
sometimes it sends a nice message if they would like to
true.
talk to them. And this is their desk phone. This isn't their cell phone.
Okay.
So So you may not talk to anybody, but leaving a message. These guys, I met with them just this week to kind of talk about logistics and how we can improve our service. And these guys are great guys. These guys, if you give them a call, they are not going to shine you on. You will get service.
Jason Douglas, District 5 Engineer's Office. He's at 505-795-0533. And then, is that Michael Mayo?
Yes, it is. Michael Mayo.
Okay. Farmington Patrol Supervisor, and he's at 505-325-6531. All right. David, anything else you want to add to?
Well, just to say that our customers, our citizens have been marvelous, and I know sometimes just in life, as we deal with things, we get frustrated. Please give us a call, please. We don't know what we don't know, right? And we don't have a huge staff. We have a staff that can take care of things when you call us, but especially when we don't know about them, it's hard to take care of them. So don't assume we know about things. Give us a call. We want to help.
Well, David, thank you for being here, and thank you to the staff. I mean, we've got, again, we've got a sanitation crew. We got planning and zoning people. We got folks who are working with developers and people who are building houses and building commercial buildings. I mean, all those things come through a process that eventually the city is involved with, and I want to commend you. I think we've created some opportunities there for people to come in and have really direct, straightforward feedback and discussion of their projects specifically. We have projects meetings with individuals who are doing new projects, I think every Tuesday morning or...
Every Tuesday morning with some of our regular contractors, but we even had a great meeting last week with a builders association, which really was nice. They gave us a lot of good ideas on how we can improve our service, and that's what we're looking for.
Well, that's what we want. We want to do better every chance that we can. So.
All the time until we're dead.
Yeah. Until we're dead. And then we can do better then too. I mean,
probably.
Well, David Sypher, thanks for being here. Thank you again to your staff, and I'm sure we'll have you back on, at least next year for sure.
Sure, but, that would be great.
All right, Dave, thank you so much. Hey, lots of good information on today's show. We hope you found it valuable. But again, for more information on projects that are happening across the city, go on to www.fmtn.org. Right on the front page is the icon for construction projects. That's not all Community Works does, but it's certainly the one that seems to be the most prevalent in our conversations. And if you'd like more information about maybe sanitation and water treatment, and we'd love to have that opportunity to speak with folks and teach them about that process, because we need to educate people in that realm. We need future engineers, and we need future project managers who are working in those utilities that every person expects in their city. So again, we appreciate you watching here today, and we will see you here next time on the Mayor's Table.